Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Fast Leadership Podcast with Arno and Gordon, where we look to take the rocket science out of leadership and make it accessible to everybody.
Yesterday, actually, I was thinking about our show and I was watching Friends on TV, and there's this scene that I absolutely adore. You know, Joey
Yeah,
Tribbiani. He's not a very good actor,
yeah,
but at some point, how can I put that delicately? He's got to pee. And suddenly he becomes such a great actor because he has this sense of emergency,
yeah,
and he contains himself, and
yeah,
he becomes like the best actor in the room, right?
yeah.
And I was wondering, sometimes you have to deal with urgencies and emergencies as leaders, and how do we, apart from getting the need to pee, how do we get our team to agree that there's an urgency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we look at Daniel Goleman's 6 leadership styles, there's commanding, visionary, affiliative, coaching, democratic, and pace
Uh-huh.
setting. And pace setting is about creating that sense of urgency, setting the pace for our team. And if you want to improve performance, you have to do things faster or better. So you have to change the pace. And as leaders, we define the culture and we have to create that sense of urgency. Now, you could try, and anybody with children will know that this doesn't work. You could try telling people to hurry up, or those who have a wife who's getting ready to go out. There, I said it.
If only, if only that
Yeah.
worked.
Hurry up, and let's do it faster. You can try that as an approach, but for me, the best way to create that sense of urgency is to act with urgency yourself. Leadership defines culture, and if we set that tone of, we respond to emails quickly, we take action quickly, we step forward quickly, we decide quickly, then others will take that from us. And we were both watching a video with Brian Tracy, and he was suggesting that only 2% of people act with urgency. So as leaders, if we can adopt that as an approach, that is going to put us into a very rare group, and it will allow us to drive performance and results. Now, obviously, you can't do everything with a sense of urgency, because that can just lead to burnout. But you can have those spurts where you do that and you push things forward.
But I want to repeat that stat. Only 2% of people act with a sense of urgency.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you can get to that mindset, you what's the word? Outcast, you outrun 98% of people.
That's right. You're going to outrun 98% of people if you can do that. And I must admit, I do personally work with a sense of urgency, but I also have procrastination available on standby if needed. But one of the areas where I really see urgency, this is an example of how leadership defines culture to some extent. I was working on a project and we had a situation where for 3 weeks we couldn't move forward in one area because we needed the input from one person and we needed that to be understood and any questions they had addressed by another person. And they were saying it's been difficult to get hold of them. And I said, well, let's call them both right now. They went, you mean right now? And I went, yeah. Right now, I am the boss of the project. When people get a call from me, they tend to answer. These two people, they've been trying to call, but nothing's happened. In fact, we called both of them now, and we got those 2 people into the meeting, and I just said, right, we've got this issue. He needs to hear the solution and then ask any questions, and we did that, and within a space of 15 minutes, something that had taken 3 weeks to resolve was done. Now imagine if we'd done that 3 weeks ago, we would be further on.
Yeah.
And as we were getting close to the go live, in a lot of meetings, I would say, so what do we need? Well, we need this from him. It's like, okay, let's call them now. Let's call
Yeah.
them now. And I did that in about 4 or 5 meetings. And then I was in another meeting with one of my good friends, Frank, who's a project manager, a very good Dutch project manager. And so we said, what we need is we need something from Sue, and we need it as quickly as possible. Before I could say anything, Frank said, well, let's call her now. Let's call her now. So they'd seen that I was okay with interrupting meetings to get the information. Let's bring people in. And now he was acting with the sense of urgency that I'd been acting. So, we've got to be the role model for it, and we've got to facilitate it and let people know that this is acceptable. And, what that did was it allowed us to address problems quickly and, not let them, like that first one, fester for 3 weeks, because that causes quite a lot of issues that we had to deal with later. But
it costs delays and money and issues, and people might get out of scope and work on something else.
If you fix a leaking pipe right now, you just need a cloth to mop up the water. Leave it 2 weeks, you need a mop and a bucket.
Yeah,
you've probably got flood damage. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But we've got to do that strategically. If it's something that is not critical, then maybe we don't want to make everything a priority, but we need to make sure that when things come up that are blocking us, bottlenecks, inject that sense of urgency. And
so when I work, I'm super impatient. I can't wait for stuff to happen,
Yeah.
And the thing is, I realized about myself that if I do wait, because of social rules and politeness and stuff like that, then I will just lose my motivation to that task. If I do it for someone who will answer within 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks or so, or the solution is given too late, then to me, because of the bad timing, it's worse than if there was just no solution.
Yeah. And it's a really good way of influencing people as well. I remember I was doing a speaking gig in Lithuania, and we agreed everything, and they said, okay, great. We want you to come and speak. Send us your invoice. I sent the invoice. They paid it the following day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sense of urgency on their part. How quickly do you think I responded to any request from them?
Right away.
Immediately.
Right now.
Yeah, they set the tone for the relationship. They put into place a sense of urgency that in this relationship we do everything immediately. And they didn't tell me to do that, but them paying the invoice within 24 hours, I thought, okay, that's the pace these guys move at. I'm now going to respond in kind. So we creating a sense of urgency, it can really help transform our performance. And you want everybody walking. If everybody's walking just that little bit faster, you're going to get to where you're going just that little bit quicker.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll tell you what, I've been working with people who don't have that sense of urgency, and they wanted to hire me, as expert. I did a couple of missions for them, and then I just stopped.
Yeah,
I couldn't work for them anymore because it was always, we'll let you know in a month or 2 months or so, and I just kept waiting, and I lost patience, and I just quit that project. Yeah.
One of the two biggest motivations the three biggest motivations in my opinion are, if you've got a project that has got a really tremendous why, that's going to motivate you to do it. If you've got a project with a plan that you believe in, that's going to motivate you to do it. The other thing that motivates people is seeing progress. So if we have that sense of urgency, we'll start to see progress earlier, and that'll allow us to build momentum. Whereas if people are just like slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, that's just demotivation. I give up. My interest is now at an all-time low. So we have to be careful of, the sense of urgency can help accelerate. The opposite can actually disengage, frustrate, and demotivate.
So yeah, if you people like this episode, please rate it, give us stars, comments, ask your questions right now. Don't wait for that.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Share it now. But the other thing,
yeah, share it now, do it, and then you can keep listening to the episode. But first, right now, do comment on it.
one of the things I always tell people about pace setting leadership, sometimes it's just, a lot of times it can just be questioning, which can be, okay, that's our approach. How could we do it 10% quicker?
Mm-hmm.
How could we do it 10% cheaper? How could we do it 10% better? Get into the habit of asking those questions. Give people that expectation that we're going to want a little bit more, that urgency to do better, do more, do faster, do cheaper, and get that, let that become the mindset. If you've got an urgency mindset and you can communicate that to your teams, you'll become unstoppable.
And you'll be faster than 98% of the population.
98%. Well, the other thing is about it is not only do you achieve your results faster, but imagine the reputation that you create when people see you moving with pace to get things done. It's gonna get you put in demand. I remember a boss I worked for. He said to me, I always see you rushing around, Gordon. Why is that? And I said, when's the deadline? He said, it's the end of this month. But, usually things are 2 weeks late. And I went, this won't be. That's why I'm rushing. Don't slow me down. We're committed to delivering to the end of the day. And that was a boss who wanted it done, but then was questioning why I was acting with a sense of urgency. And then when you ask him, yeah, well, not a lot of stuff gets done on time. Yeah, I can see why. There's nobody acting with a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
And one other thing I would say as well is that sometimes, get it wrong quickly and fix it. If you're not sure what to do, if you're not sure what the right decision is, just make one. And if it's the wrong one, correct it and move forward. Get out of, it does help us get out of procrastination and into action.
Yeah, I agree. There's a saying I really like. It's a good decision taken too late is a bad decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I fully agree with that.
Yeah, the fence is nowhere to be sat. In times of crisis, you've got to make a decision, and sometimes I think you can make an early bad decision into a good decision, but a late good decision, that's a whole different thing to correct.
And if you think that moving fast, you're putting pressure on your colleagues and collaborators. Think about the kind of pressure you're putting on their shoulders if you take the good decision way too late.
Yeah.
And they have to deal with that. That's another kind of pressure. And I can assure you, it's way worse.
Yeah, and I'll just finish with one of my favorite quotes from Mario Andretti. You need to be as old as me to remember Mario Andretti. I think he was around at the same time as Jody Scheckter, Belgian racing driver. Mario Andretti, because a lot of people say, "Oh, be careful, don't go too fast. We'll lose control." And Mario Andretti said, "If you're in control, you can go faster." And he was a Formula One racing driver. If you're in complete control, you can go faster. So bear that in mind when you're looking at setting that sense of urgency. Faster is an option.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Thank you, Gordon. It was great talking with you. I hope you guys got some great tips. And until next time, we'll talk about more great ways to be not the great, but the fastest and the greatest leader.
Thanks, everybody. Please share and comment and like.